all the versions. Hello, everybody. Laura Ward. I am here in a Zoom class with some space people and outer space aliens they're not visible, so don't worry. They probably won't come on screen, so it won't be too scary. But I'm going to be talking about Laban's space. And I see that Michael is already playing with the hands. Hi, Lisa. Nice to see you. And yes, so I'm just giving you a quick overview. I'm going to screen share and show you a couple of videos that are on YouTube. And feel free to play with space and move your body in any way that you want to move as this is all going on. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. But I was just saying that using Laban's system of conceiving and moving in geometric space has made it really, it's changed the way that I look at the world, and it's changed the way that I look at architecture. It changed the way that I participate in being in my body, and also my awareness of the back space. So last week we ended up doing one of the scales with our eyes, and that really changed the way that I was perceiving and just feeling my eyes in my own body. So we're hopefully going to get to that. Hello, Kristen. All right, so let's actually start. And I have two versions of me happening here. So I have my iPad so that you can see full bodied me. And hopefully the backlighting isn't too horrendous. So let's just start with the vertical dimension. So we're going to do place high, reaching as high as you can go. I'm going all the way to my tippy toes and then all the way down, place low. So reaching up, place high, and place low. And you can choose whether you're mirroring me or doing your other side, it doesn't matter. Going up and down and up and down. Now switch it to the other side of your body. Place high, tippy toes, getting as high as you can, and then place low. We're in the vertical dimension. So the vertical dimension has two directions, up and down, and it has one dimension, and that is vertical, up and down. So I was actually teaching this to my cousin's kids who are very young. And I have found that working with kids, sometimes getting into like really high reach is not, they don't have a whole lot of access to that kind of sensation. So I started with just playing small. So it would be like just vertical a little bit up and a little bit down. So we're working with just a small range of motion or a very near kinesphere, reaching a little bit up and a little bit down. Let's try it on the other side, just a little bit up and a little bit down. Hey, Virginia. I'm going to mute everybody, but Virginia is here. Just a little bit up and a little bit down. Finding a small kinesphere, vertical, with just one hand traveling up, but maybe your body is also traveling up and down. So I'm finding that I'm straightening my legs and then bending as I go down. Let's get medium size. So you're going for a medium up and down. It could be right in line with your body, a little bit of mid-range movement. Maybe this is a really comfortable place to be. So I want you to feel with in your own body like, oh yeah, I can do this, this is okay. Or, oh God, I feel so held back. Just start to tune into what are your personal preferences. Like, it's nice and safe in this small movement. Or what if we start to get bigger? So let's stay with this side and just start to really travel to place high, your highest possible point in space, and then below, reaching as high as you can and taking it down. And again, high as you can go. Hey, Rowena, and taking it down. And one more. And let's switch. Let's stay up and just take the second hand up, drop one, and take it down. So we're just finding different ways of moving through this vertical dimension, this up and downness, with one dimension, one spatial pull, which is vertical, but two directions up and down. Very exciting. All right, let's just shake that out for a second. So I am clearly very cracked out to start. And instead of going with any kind of inner space, I've been going 100% outer space. So let's narrow it in a little bit and just take it into breath. So still working with this vertical, we're just gonna do vertical breathing. So thinking of bipolar lengthening up, and then taking it back down. And you may want to use your hands or not to either one hand on the top of the head, other hand bottom of your belly, or just moving up and down, any way that helps you perceive. And let's try closing our eyes for this. So finding the vertical up and down, just with your breath. Or it could be up and up and down at the same time and then coming back in. So it could be growing in both directions and then shrinking together. Any way to find that vertical. Yeah. I am super wired. I'm so excited to be here with all you wonderful people on Thanksgiving in the USA. So let's, from this place, start to switch to the horizontal, the side. And let's just switch with arms reaching from one side, and I'm seated. You might be seated, you might be standing to the other. So I'm reaching out big, one side to the other side through the horizontal dimension. And I'm letting that ripple through my body. So as I'm reaching side and my butt is planted on this chair, I'm getting all this nice movement from my spine, from my tail to my head. And I'm trying to let my neck have some freedom. So there's a natural righting response that babies have and that people have, and that is to keep our head vertical. So if you're going off, and if you can let your head go out of vertical and just let the arms reach side to side, let your spine have a nice curve. Oh, that looks beautiful. Yeah, Abby, liking that movement. Okay, so let's go bigger with that. And let's do it with one hand. So one hand, I'm actually working with my right. It's probably gonna look like the left for you. So if you want to mirror me, go with your left hand, crossing over and opening wide. So we have side across, narrowing the body, side open where we widen. Side across, narrowing it in, and opening wide. And one more, side across, and opening it wide. Just make sure. And then we're going to take it to the other hand, side across and side open. Side across. And the bottom hand is just working as a counter tension, side open. Side across, side open, side across, and side open. So let's now go small. So starting with my right, your left, or the other way around. And just a little bit across and a little bit open. Not so much that you're passing your body, but in a very sort of near kinesphere, near reach space. And I'm finding that as I do this, my head is now turning from side to side. I didn't plan on that, but somehow with this smaller movement, it feels very natural to follow my hand with my head. Let's let it get a little bigger. So I'm going to cross over more, and I'm going to step and do really a weight shift. I'm going to let my hand cross, let myself weight shift. Still, let's say in a mid-reach space, mid-kinesphere, not going all the way yet. Crossing and opening. And then if you feel like you're ready to go, get the other half involved and get big, crossing over and opening wide. Crossing over and opening wide. And now I'm still working with my head. My head is going with that movement. Crossing over and opening wide. Let's switch it to the other side. Let me just shut this window. I can see I'm really backlit. Other hand, starting small. Crossing over and opening it wide. And what does this remind us of? I don't know. I was not raised with religion at all, but that the sign of the cross, right? That crossing and opening. I guess there's something appropriate about that happening. Let's take it a little bigger. Crossing, opening, a little bit bigger. Still in no huge commitment, but a little bit of weight shifting. And we could say we're kind of unfolding as we reach out, folding and crossing. And then let's go big, really big, opening wide, crossing over, opening wide, and crossing over. And then there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that is that our hip bones, headlights, are facing front. So if I cross over and turn, then now my front is here. So try to keep your front the same place the whole time. So like your headlights are facing the wall where your computer is or whatever that is. Cross and open and cross. So this is our horizontal dimension. It has one spatial pole, which is horizontal, and it has two directions, side and side. So that's just Laban theory. And it doesn't matter if you remember any of that, unless of course you're gonna study Laban. Sometimes it's helpful. I like to nerd out on those little details and ideas. So let's go now again, back and forward into the sagittal. Again, we haven't done it yet, so I don't know why I'm saying again. Forward and backward, and I'm going big. All the way behind me and all the way forward. taking it straight back and straight forward, straight back. Now, second hand is working as a counterbalance. So my arm and leg of one side of my body are the primary movers that are delineating the space, and the other half of my body is working as a counterbalance, a counter tension. Let's switch it to the other side. We're just going big for this the whole time through. When we put the whole scale together, we can try it in different sizes. Yeah, reaching behind you, reaching forward, taking it back, and taking it forward. Yes, one more, taking it back and forward. And then let's come in and we're gonna put the whole thing together. And let's put it together starting small. So we're gonna have small reach space going up, small down, crossing over, opening, taking it backwards and forward. So I'm actually not really stepping. I'm keeping this kind of small. Up and down, place high, place low, cross it over, open it wide, take it backwards and forwards. And if I don't shift my feet, my torso has a totally different way of adapting to the movement. So let's get a little bigger, medium size, up, down, not too big, but maybe shifting your weight a little bit more, letting the other foot move. Not your biggest yet, a little bit uncertain of going all the way. Same thing, medium size, up and down, medium cross, and open, and backwards and forwards. So I'm like, as a dancer, I'm really a movement junkie. I'm dying to go big. So let's get there, high and low, full place high, place low, crossing over, opening wide, taking it backwards and forwards. Yeah, big movement. Place high, place low, crossing over, opening wide, taking it backwards and forwards. So we're going to switch right away to the other side. Starting small, up, down, cross, open, backwards, and forwards. I gotta say, actually, it feels really good to do this more in my body when I don't have any stepping happening. There's a lot of activity in my body. Place high, getting a little bit bigger, place low, crossing, adding the legs, and opening, but staying medium, going all back and forward. So not full reach space, just growing with each one, maybe a little bit bigger, crossing, opening, taking it backwards and forwards. And I'm gonna go full on, reaching high, all the way down, crossing over, opening wide, taking it backwards and forwards. Big movement. High. So we're doing this with a central pathway. We're always coming from the center, crossing and opening. We come back to center to go back and forward. So that's the dimensional cross of axis. If we do it as the defense scale, we add some peripheral pathways. So let's try that. Going back to our first hand, we're going to stab up and then slice all the way down. We're going to stab across and then slice all the way around, all the way to the back. And then we're going to stab forward. Boom. And that would be our defense scale. Let's switch to the other side. Stabbing up, slicing all the way down. Stabbing across, slicing all the way open. Keep slicing to the back and stab forward. So it's more of a fighting version, which is why it's called the defense scale. But I don't want to spend a whole lot of time there today. Let's come in together for a second. And hey, Virginia, hey, Elena. It's super fun. I got a lot of the people from the embodiment circles here. Yay. And just here's my little ad. Tomorrow I'm doing a Playful Connection embodiment circle at 1 p.m. EST. So I don't know if anybody's free. And actually Anthony Traher, who's like a clown juggler person who lives in Italy, but he's English, is going to be the special guest. And I have no idea what he's going to do. Although I did take his class in the embodiment conference and it was fun. There was some juggling involved and dropping a lot of balls. That's what I was really good at, dropping the ball. Anyway, let's talk about what it would look like to, so I have a few new people in here. If you know the answer to this question, please don't answer it right away. But if we were to put, so here are our crystalline forms. Unfortunately, there's not a tetrahedron in there because the cat found it and moved it somewhere. Well, I have no idea where it is now. So we have 4 different Platonic solids that are here. There are actually 5. The tetrahedron is one of them, and it is not in our set of things. So I have some doubles of things in here. There we go. 2 of those. Okay, so I have, here is a cube. Here is an octahedron. Let me give you a better octahedron that you can see better on this film. There's an octahedron. This is a dodecahedron. This is an icosahedron. So of these Platonic solids, if we were to put that scale of movement on the inside of one of these, does anyone want to guess which one it would be? Anyone who doesn't know, and you know what, it's fine to guess the wrong answer because that would be guessing, right? Where do you think it might be? Any brave soul want to unmute and say?
Can you repeat the size?
Choices? Yes. So here's an octahedron, and it would be going inside of the Platonic solid. Like it's not going to travel around the outside, it's going to travel from the inside points. Here we have a cube. This is an icosahedron. And here is a dodecahedron. Go ahead, Virginia.
I don't know, I can't count, but is it 6?
Yes, well, it's 6 points. So it's, yeah, so it's the octahedron, right? So we have our up, down, our vertical, we have our horizontal, side, side, and we have our sagittal or my sagittal, forward, backward. So that is like the 3 dimensions if we put those together. There are other scales. So we started a few weeks ago working with the cube, which is the most 3-dimensional of scales. And then the icosahedron is where we put the planes together. So before we do any of that, I actually just want to share this video with you. And I think I'm going to stop. Now I'll just keep recording. What the hell? They can watch my bad screen share. It'll take me a minute to screen share. But this is about bubbles and how bubbles stack together and surface tension. So this is just to give you an idea of a different kind of concept of space. I don't know. I find this fascinating.
It's always a sphere. If they touch each other, they can save material for both of them by sharing a common wall. And so they do. If they can save surface area by taking advantage of their environment, they will.
Can you guys hear it?
So when you've got just one bubble, the sphere is the most efficient shape. But as we add more bubbles,
can you hear? Thumbs up if you can.
Changing. So in this case, 4 bubbles, and you can see them meeting at a point. But put a shape in the middle, we don't get a spherical bubble. We get, in fact, a little tetrahedron. 4 faces, they're not exactly flat, they're parts of spheres. But each time the bubbles are trying to find the most efficient shape for the arrangement of bubbles. So now we've got 6 bubbles, we've got a little cube appearing in the middle. This is nature's laws at work. The universe is always trying to find the most efficient solution it can. And as we pop them, bubbles change, finding the most efficient, till we're left with a sphere again.
It has no choice.
But what's most remarkable is that those solutions are so often neat geometric shapes. Wow, that's a dodecahedron. That's fantastic. And they're almost perfect pentagons, aren't they? That's really surprising. They're not bulging really very much at all.
That's right.
So 12 bubbles around make 12 faces, and the most economical shape that they can make, the lowest energy, is the dodecahedron.
Yeah.
All right, so that's just a little bit of nerding out on space and sort of nature and how they fit together. I actually have like a bunch more videos I was going to share with you, but I'm like, maybe you should just look them up yourself on YouTube. But they're talking about like how a sphere, like a perfect sphere, is the perfect economical surface tension. and what that all means, like why these things want to stack. I do have to show you one more thing, because I've been talking a lot about fascia, and fascia is also one of my special interests. And we haven't gotten, so we've only been today in the octahedron, which isn't as three-dimensional, but we'll get more three-dimensional. But I do want to show you this little clip of, it's from Strolling Under the Skin, which is, what's the guy's name? Gamberto. He's a, oh, hold on. I've got to make that small. Can I do it? Yes, okay. So he's a French guy who has done all this study in fascia, and there's a whole movie that you can watch. You can watch this entire movie, but this is like, so this is under the skin. This is looking at the sort of the fascia and how it is, I'm getting music from something else. Where is?
This is a film about bubbles.
Oh, it's the bubbles one. Hold on, hold on.
To most people, bubbles are just toys children play with.
I can't get to it because of my screen share. There's our bubbles story, which isn't what I was trying to share with you.
They're amazingly powerful tools that are pushing back the boundaries of science.
Okay, we're gonna go back to Strolling Under the Skin and hear that.
You can see that just below the dermis and hypodermis, there's a highly mobile tissue encompassing everything else and penetrating what is known as the undermined plane. When this tissue is tracted upward, you get a surprise. Curious movements occur due to the bursting of vacuoles at atmospheric pressure, demonstrating the existence of hydraulic systems under different levels of pressure. The show is total with pseudogeometrically shaped fibrillar structures encompassing the muscles, skin, and fat. Yet what are these shapes? What do they do and why are they there? Is this what we have traditionally termed the connective tissue? Let's now delve into this world of fibrils.
Okay, so the answer to that is that the connective tissue? Yes, that's the connective tissue. And the reason that I'm bringing that up is because it would, like, when we pull on an icosahedral form or a system of tensegrity, it shifts the whole system of tensegrity. So it's looking at, that's how, I mean, I relate that to the icosahedron. Like if it was perfectly in order, alles in Ordnung, then it might look more like this as opposed to the way it's shaping in these different fractal ways. But within that, the structure of our fascia is moving with water and hydration, like it's sort of dripping along the lines and creating these forms. And so the reason that I'm coming back to this is when we move our body in diverse ways in space, we allow the fascia to create more coherence and more of a balanced relationship with the hydration inside our bodies. So that's one reason why, like in doing lab on space, we're going to have up, down, side, side, backward, forward on one side. Then we're going to have up, down, side, side, backward, forward on the other side. We're going to move into the planes. We're going to move into different things. And the more three-dimensional and within our own bodies, the more sort of rotation and spiral we have, the more hydration and the more health for the joints and tissues. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Okay. The link for the bubble video, it's the Bubbleologist. Just look up the Bubbleologist and it's from BBC 2, I think. And I think it's called The Code. Okay, so let's keep on moving here. So let's go into the planes. And in the interest of getting more into the icosahedron, I was thinking of giving you the a little bit more of the notation for each thing, but I think it's better just to move. So that could be another moment in time where we do notation. So let's get into our vertical dimension. So we have our vertical dimension, up, down. I can get my whole body into it as much as possible. If I want to add another dimension to come into the vertical plane, I add a little bit of horizontal. So my up and down, add some side, side, and I'm in my vertical plane. So let's just hit the points of the vertical plane, going high right, high left, low right, low left. Now I'm hitting these with alternating sides of my body. High left, low right, low left. High right, high left, low right, low left. Let's hit it all with one body part. So it's gonna go high right, high left. Let's cross So if I'm crossing on top, I'm going to cross on the bottom, low right, low left, high right, high left, low right, low left, high right, high left, low right, low left. Another way would be to go low left, crossing through the inside to high right, low left to high right. And we can feel that if I am wide on the bottom and narrow on top, it has a very different feeling than being narrow on the bottom and wide on top. So just feeling what these are, we're narrowing at the bottom, going to low left, to high right, low left, to high right. Let's just shift to the other side and let's do something totally different. Let's just cycle through with just one arm. So we're cycling around in one direction, hopefully hitting those 4 points. I'm now not crossing my legs, although I could be. And let's change direction, cycling the other way, and let's hit the points and add the legs. So I'm crossing up, high right, low left, high left, high right, low left, high left. Cool, and just shake it out for a second. How's it going? That's our vertical plane. So vertical and vertical plane are very much about me. It's very much about bringing your attention. So there's my sagittal. I'm taking you into me. You can see it in gesture. You can look at people's behavior of what their gestures are inferring and kind of know something about them. Horizontal, very much we, me and you. Here we are, my friend, my other friend, let's hang out. So let's take the horizontal plane. So horizontal plane, we're gonna have, I'm just gonna say what the points are first. Right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. Right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. Yeah, so let's try those. Going right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. Right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. Right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. Now, if I want to work within the plane, I can go right forward middle to left back middle. Right forward middle, crossing, moving on the inner scaffolding of the plane to the left back middle. And again, right forward middle to left back middle. Yes, let's switch it to the other side. Left forward middle to right back middle. And again, trying to keep the hips square to the front, so our upper body is getting this nice spiraling, which if we were talking about Bartenieff, we're having some arm circle action and some nice rotary factor in our spine, also in our rotator cuff. Good, just shake that out for a second. So if we were to cycle, even without moving my legs, here, I can just cycle. It's like you're sweeping off a big table. So horizontal is also known as the table plane, vertical is the door plane, sagittal is the wheel plane. So let's take it into sagittal. And let's go with, let's do all the points with one hand, and then we'll do the same exact points with the other hand. So we're gonna go forward low, to forward high, to backward high, to backward low. Forward low, to forward high, to backward high, to backward low. Switching to the other hand. And I'm just gonna show you so that you see it sideways. Forward low, forward high, backward low. Forward low, forward high, thanks. Backward high, backward low. Forward low, forward high, backward low. So if I'm doing it like this, it's kind of like bowling. If I do it this way, it's like throwing. So those are our planes. And I didn't talk about them in exactly the same way. If we were in a classroom together, I might teach you better, because then I would remember, I would see all the things. But here we are. We are in a classroom. It's a Zoom classroom. So for our horizontal, we have our side. We add a little bit of sagittal, a little bit of forward backward, and that's where we get our plane. For our sagittal dimension, we have forward backward. We add a little bit of vertical. That's where we get the up down. So in the theory of this, we say that in the vertical plane, the primary spatial pull is vertical, up, down. The secondary spatial pull is horizontal, side, side. And if we look at these like planes, The vertical plane is like a piece of paper. It's going to be longer than it's going to be wide. Here's my horizontal plane. It's going to be wider than it is forward backward. Here's my sagittal plane. It's going to be more sagittal than it is vertical. So I'm going to bring us in to this PowerPoint that I made. Screen share again. Hey, Cassie. And let me go back to the beginning. Woo, space harmony. Clear all of us out of the way. All right, so there we go. So that picture is actually, Abby had ended up drawing something like this. It's basically a Merkaba, or within it there's the cube, inside of that's the tetrahedron. If we added a few more points, we could make an icosahedron within that. And this is like just how to conceive of space. So here's our planes. You can see the vertical is the door, the sagittal forward backward, and then the horizontal, the table. Here's another way of looking at that. And then these are levels. So we have like high level, middle level, low level. And you can see a person within that, just how we conceive of that spatially. Then there's a person moving in the cube, and down on the other side is the icosahedron, which is the three planes imposed upon each other. Now here at the bottom are the Platonic solids. So there's a tetrahedron, a cube, an octahedron, an icosahedron, and a dodecahedron. So in Laban's work, we don't have any scales in the dodecahedron. There are scales in the cube, the octahedron, and the icosahedron. There's a picture of a person inside the octahedron, a person inside the cube, and then there's the dodecahedron. And if you look next to it, the sort of penned in lines are supposed to be the planes, how they're superimposed upon each other. Oh, you know what? That's it. All right, I can stop that share. So I've done this before, but if I take this icosahedron, so this has 12 points, and each of these 12, let me do it like this. There we go. So if I take these 4 points, the top 2 and the bottom 2 right here, those bottom 2 and those top 2, and put it together, if I put something in the middle, that's the vertical plane. If I have these 2 side points on either side and these 2 side points, inside of that is the horizontal plane. And then these 2 back points and these 2 front points, and inside of that is the sagittal plane. And then there's a whole scale of movement that takes place within that plane. There's actually there's a bunch of scales that take place within that, not that plane, that crystalline form. So let's have you guys come back together and let's just have a little talk about what you're noticing, what you might be curious about, and what is of most interest to you. So feel free to unmute.
Well, I love how you're teaching it, Laura. I love the video, the body, the hands on the points. That was great. I don't know. I love it. It's just what I was looking for. You read my mind. You read my body. It's just what I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's all right here. I don't know. Yeah. I just find it so interesting and so let me just say a little bit more, because I showed you that Strolling Under the Skin, which is the Gimbartau film, which is like 30 minutes long. I highly recommend looking at that. But I studied anatomy with Gil Headley. And one thing that I noticed, and I was telling Cassie this, I think, or somebody, in even a cadaver doing a heel rock, I can move its foot and I can see the movement from its foot through its ankle. I move the foot again up and down. Now I can see the movement through the pelvis. I move the foot a third time up and down. Now the movement chain has gone all the way up to the head, and the head bobbles. So it's like that's the value of movement. And also this weird 3 times rule is that like the first time something happens, the second time we're layering in and the movement gets bigger and more complete. And the third time it's really happening. So if we think of that on a tissue or even a bone level, like for coherency, for strength, for flexibility, we want to, repetition is our friend. And it doesn't mean that we're always doing it exactly the same, because sometimes repetition becomes mindless and then we're not thinking about anything, there's no awareness, and it's not quite so beneficial. But if we can stay present in what we're doing, by the third time, there's going to be a huge change to what's happened on the first time in the tissue and even in our minds and in our thoughts. I offered you the chance to talk and then I started talking again. Kiki, you want to say something?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I had so many brain farts when you were talking. So the one thing that before you said it, I wanted to know, I thought, wow, where did you study anatomy? Because everything that you're doing and saying, it seems so intuitive and resonates. It seems like you're a master at what you do, and I recognize that. So I wanted to share that with you. And also, yeah. When you said about the 3 times rule, about body movement, and what were the key words you said? It takes 3 times for it to form?
Well, yeah, for the completion of something, right? So if I move it once, like it's happened a little bit, something's happened. If I move it a second time, now it's happened much bigger, on a bigger scope. By the third time, it's like, boom, now we've gotten the whole organism in knowing what it is. And like, so from I'm going to also talk about continuum really quickly, because I think that traditionally we think, oh yeah, I already know that. But if we don't think I already know that, if we think, what am I learning right now in this moment? We're open to taking in more. And I think especially in fields where we do already have a ton of knowledge, and it can be hard to come to the game as a beginner, but to come in so that there's a sense of layering information, layering learning, layering movement, as opposed to just repeating the same thing, but it's this layering of coming in. And what I was saying with the body, I mean, I feel like it's with the tissue, it's with the bones, it's with the fluids, that the 3 time rule is going to give it enough chance to make a change.
Yeah, and for me also that makes sense. Again, it's something just intuitive. For me, whether it's some behaviors or, you know, business world, personal life, you know, something happens once, interesting. Something happens twice, or I do it twice, or, you know, I'm like, okay. And then third time it's set, it's a pattern. Like, so it totally made sense with me. It's just, thank you so much for sharing everything. It's incredible.
But well, let me just ask you, how did you wind up here today?
I was a summary writer for the Embodiment conference, and I attended some of the talks you were moderating.
Okay. Yeah, and I feel like we had a back and forth somewhere in like in a thread, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Like there's so many people, and like I'm really bad with recognizing people. Just like I just don't see people in the same way as people see people. So I don't know. So thank you for letting me know. Any other questions, comments, concerns, feelings about landing in this, what you're feeling in your body, what you're noticing?
I'm just feeling curious and interested about, I'm thinking of everything really angular, maybe like boom, boom. So I'm wondering how to smooth that out, maybe.
Yeah, and I actually want to talk about that because I've been thinking about that today in terms of the scale in the icosahedron. It goes from high right to back low to left forward middle, low right to back high to right forward middle, low left to forward high to, which one is it? I think it's
Right
this,
back middle.
and then no, it's this side.
The left.
And then I don't know, I lost it. It's really hard to do it in the points. It's easier to do it around my body, but it keeps moving through the plane, so the way that I learned the A scale, it goes vertical point to sagittal point to horizontal, vertical, sagittal, horizontal, vertical. Yeah, the fascia video is strolling under the skin. So vertical, sagittal, horizontal. When we do it in that way, it's kind of like a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're moving through these places and it's got a rounded way. When we move vertical, to sagittal to horizontal. If I start in sagittal and go sagittal to horizontal to vertical, it's called a steeple. It's got a much more pointy way of going from place to place. And the way that I really know it is in the volutes, which is much more of a rounded way of going from point to point. And the steeples have so it's like all I have to do is start one point differently, and then it's a completely different flavor. It's much more angular. But let's talk a little bit more about Laban theory. And so it's actually the theory that came to the US and was developed so that's where my education primarily is from Laban Bartenieff. But I had to study anatomy in various different things, and then finally with Gill. So in the way that we look at movement in the US, that's slightly different from the Laban Institute in London, is that we have another thing called shape. And so shape can be, there's three elements of shape. And they have multiple vectors for each one, but I'll show you them all. I'm sitting on the floor. So here I am. And if I'm kind of just in my own body, just adjusting, doing whatever needs to be, to keep myself with breath support and core support and all those types of things, we call this shape flow. And it's the body in relationship to itself. You could see people waiting in line without awareness that they're doing things. They're kind of maybe picking their nose, scratching their head, scratching, adjusting their weight, shifting around. That's like shape flow. And that's like me in a sort of flow with myself. It's kind of we could say it's a very unconscious one, but it could also be a very conscious one, because it could just be like, yeah, you're not thinking about it. You're just in that place of relationship to self. Or you could be really like in a meditation, and then that's a different thing, but still shape flow. The next level is me making a bridge to the environment. And so I might come out with a spoke. My spoke body is going to reach out, or I could slice out, right? So I could come out spoke-like or arc-like, which both of these are sort of ways of relating to the world that are still kind of linear. Like it's not this, it's this, or it's the way that we often relate to something that we're not getting intimate with. Like, oh, here's my thing, and I'm going to spoke it. I'm going to poke, spoke-like, or, oh, I got a big sneeze, or arc-like. And it could go in any plane, in any dimension. Like I could be moving along the periphery of things, very arc-like movement. And this arc-like movement is also coming from my center, but so there's a sort of central tension, peripheral movement, arcing, spoking. And then the next layer of that would be when I'm really three-dimensionally engaging with something, and then I start to shape with it. So we call it shaping. So three-dimensional shaping has a lot of spiraling, a lot of twisting, a lot of full body engagement. So the dimensional cross of axis, the basic scale of movement, even when I do it with a defense scale, is either spoke-like or arc-like, or a combination of spoke-like and arc-like. If I take if I start to move into the icosahedron, where I'm moving from one plane to another plane, I start to have much more three-dimensional body shaping happening. And that's why we also want to think about this, because these aren't things that we think about on our daily, like moving from, high right into back low, into left forward middle. Like I could just go like this, and then I have no support coming from my body, right? Or I can have more support and more whole body connection and more of a relationship. So when I have that really three-dimensional carving, shaping, engaging with whatever's outside of me, yeah, look at you go, Cassie. Do you want to just show for a second, like moving from plane to plane? So Cassie is down there, and I'm going to pin her for a second. Yeah, and then, so yeah, and let yourself really think of initiations coming through like your elbow or your shoulder or your hip. So there's a full three-dimensional, that's it. So that your whole torso is like curling, curving, wrapping. Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I don't even know how to unpin you because I'm an expert. Oh,
Top left by the little check.
yeah. Well, I know how to do it in you. Remove pin. All right. Any questions, anything to say, or just what's coming up for you? Or what are you thinking? Or, oh, this relates to that. What's going on in your brains?
There's a question in the chat from Kiki. I don't know if she wants to.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering, I did come a little bit late to the class and I didn't want to interrupt anything. Is the purpose of what you're showing us today, Laura, for like to embody sacred geometry with these movements, like to replicate it within ourselves and come to a higher consciousness, or am I grasping?
Well, I love that. I mean, that's the best, right? If you do that, then woo! If everybody would just spend a little time trying to embody some sacred geometry, we'd all be a lot healthier. Well, part of it is that, but also it's that when we move these ways, what happens like to our corpus callosum? So the space, the place, the great, central highway, when the more things that are crossing through that corpus callosum, and the more we build these connections, the healthier our brains are. So the healthier they are in terms of the neuroplasticity. And anytime you're building new associations, you're working with that neuroplasticity. But it's for your fascia and for your tissue. Like, okay, the general person who's spending, 90% of their day sitting on their butt, maybe on their device, with all of their focus and all of their sort of cellular intention and spatial intention going into one place, that's not going to be great for your body. So this brings us back into that idea of doing the dimensional cross of axis with your eyeballs. So we can do it. Let's do it without, do we want to turn our heads? It's so nice to turn heads. Let's do it with turning our heads. So we're going to do it. You're going to look, you're going to have place high, place low, one side, the other side, come back into center. And then whatever it means to you to take your eyes back. I mean, maybe you're going to move your head, or maybe you're just going to move your eyes in the socket. And maybe it's just a thought of your eye moving into the back space, finding the back of that big round juicy bubble of your eyeball, and then letting it go forward. So yeah, so taking that again, up, looking down, maybe side to the other side first, and then cross to the other side. Coming in, taking your eyeballs into the back space, and then taking them forward. And then we're going to do this just for Michael, for Mikey. We're going to reverse it. So we're going to go forward. We're going to take it into the back space. We're going to go to one side. We're going to go to the other side. We're going to look down and then look up. So, I mean, and that's also a thing, like anytime we just change the order of something, it's going to make us think differently. And it's also going to have a different feeling. And so we could also use this idea of space as a way of problem solving. So like take anything that you have, just any kind of item. It could be a pen, it could be whatever you got, a piece of paper, anything, a basket. It could be something small, something big. And I want you to take that, whatever your item is, and hold it out in front of you. And let's say that your item, you're going to imbue your item with whatever you are most grateful for. And you're just going to say that like inside of this item are all my favorite things, all of my favorite people, all of my favorite places, whatever makes you excited and happy. Put that into your item, and then come out, and let's just freely, without me saying anywhere specifically to go, put the item in different places around your body. And don't move to another place until you feel what it feels like to have that item in that location. You can change to the other side, you can cross. Just feeling what your relationship to that, your bubble, your gratitude item is when it's in different places. How do you feel? Does it change your feeling toward it when it's in different locations? And let's come back together and let's just process that for a second. Did it feel different? Did you feel differently? Did your relationship to it change when it was in different places? Not at all. Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, so
Yes, Alicia.
for me, it actually did. I mean, putting that value on something. And when I moved from front to behind, it was really interesting because when I moved to behind, I felt kind of anxious and nauseous. Like I wanted to get it back to the forefront as quick as possible. So that was quite interesting.
Anybody else?
Yes,
Go ahead, Rowena.
for me, it was sensing in different parts around my body. So I had different sensations as the gratitude was moving from up, down, left, and right, because as I was staying there for a few seconds, I was connecting with that. So I did feel a difference in my body.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
Yeah, so I really like when it's behind because I feel my somatic relationship come alive, whereas when it's in my visual, I'm so visual with it and I'm not as somatic.
Right, right. So that leads us really quickly, just for people that may not be familiar with neurolinguistic programming, but and other ways that we learn or other ways that we like. So we have our visual, like a visual person. I'm super visual. I'm going to be kind of sped up. Everything is like burm, 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 burm. Or you could be an audio person. You might be a little bit not quite as speedy as a visual person, but still pretty fast. But you take in most of your stuff through your ears. And then there's a kinesthetic person who really tends to be the most slowed down person, like, oh, really has to feel it in their body. Like, how do you know a thing? Like, well, I know it's right when I see this and this, or I know it's right when I hear it, when it sounds like that, or I know it's right when I feel it like that. And we're all of these things. So, I mean, just changing your relationship in space brings it more into the kinesthetic. And then one says, now let's take this, let's find a different item, something different, so we don't do the same thing. And now let that item be something that really annoys you. Nothing huge, nothing majorly awful, but something that's like, that really bugs the shit out of me. And let your, whatever it is, take that item and now move that item to different locations. And what do you feel like? Give yourself enough time to respond and to let yourself feel. And try it in different hands if that's helpful. And let's come back together and see what that was like. Did it change for you how you felt when you moved the thing into different places? Oh, Virginia, so cute. Hello there. We've got a little person on camera. Mm. Cool. All right. I haven't read the chat at all because I've been in my teaching mode. And
I
now
was super aware of when there was near space and far space. Yeah.
So wait, can you just go a little deeper into that say it again?
So I was finding that afterwards I realized I was very clear about whether it was going to be close to my body or extended far away. I don't know what that means, but there was like such disdain, and I was also holding it in a very different way. It was no longer this like precious, cherished.
Well, so we come a little bit into like Laban effort when there's this like, oh, how are you holding it? You know, there's a whole more thing. What about everybody else? Anyone else notice anything? Yeah.
Yeah, what's coming for me that I'm really interested in is body, in my body, space, out there in the room, and kinesphere, which is like this in between. It's like there's some body and there's some space there. And so I'm getting interested in that there can be 3 places inside my body that I'm thinking about. There can be 3 places with the object in the kinesphere, and there can be 3 places like out there in the room beyond kinesphere. And that feels really engaging to me, to like, you know, for a choreography or a relational activity, you know, to put things in those 3 places in my body, 3 in the kinesphere, 3 out there in the bigger room.
Yeah. It also makes me think, and I think I've said this before, is like when I've been teaching dance or teaching a movement class or sort of a choreography class to people that aren't dancers, and or that I feel like I know I'm coming in there with resistance. Like I just know I'm coming into the room and people are like, oh, what do I have to do now? So sometimes what I do is try and not let them move. Like make it as small as you can possibly move and still feel something. Like I know we've done this before, like in not for the same reasons, but just coming into tiny, tiny movement, and how that, especially in our heads, like if I just feel like, let's take our fingers and stick it right back there, like right at your occipital joint. And then just move so small that you can just feel that you're moving. And then just allow your body to do anything that feels good. You can take your hand away if you want, or you can leave your hand there. But like, so once I did that and I was doing a turn, a really small turn from side to side, but I started to feel this ripple from the head to my tail in the sagittal coming into my body. So it's like I brought in this awareness over here, and then just by creating that awareness, it shifted the internal, I want to say organismic desire for movement, because it's not that I'm going, I want to do a body roll at all. It's just like, oh, this little wave starts to happen. And then I can free that up and let that move in a more free 3-dimensional wave. It doesn't have to stay in that sagittal. It can also start to add some horizontal. But once we start to have a really clear sort of somatic image within our bodies of this 3-dimensionality and what that all means, it just gives us more volume, which I feel like, especially in this time when, well, Abby showed this amazing drawing that she had done. Can I talk about that, Abby? Because you shared that before people were here. But it was, I'm just gonna say what it was. No, I'm not gonna say what it was, but it's the idea
No,
that—
you can. You totally can. You have my permission.
Okay. So she shared this picture that she was doing this art class, and the picture was basically of an icosahedron, and inside the icosahedron was a little tetrahedron. And so this idea of these things nestled within, we can come into ourselves, or we can radiate out away from ourselves. Like this is happening all the time on a universe structure, right? The universe is in this growing and shrinking. And in our bodies, the same thing is happening with our breath. Thanks so much, Alicia. Oh, she popped out. And I think we are at an hour now. So probably for everyone's own time, I need to let you guys all go as well. And we can meet again next Thursday. And I know it's so sad, but I think I'm going to stop the video so that this sticks at being an hour. And anybody who wants to stick around for 5 more minutes, we can talk a little bit more. I'm happy to Q&A, but I know people have to leave. So I'm going to stop recording. Thank you, anybody who made it through this far.